With fractions and equations, it is nice to get rid of the fraction. And we want to get rid of this fraction. The 3 in the denominator really means divide. So if I want to get rid of the divide by 3, I can multiply by times 3. But if I multiply, I have to remember to keep everything balanced. That means that if I multiply the fraction by 3, every piece has to be multiplied by 3. So the times 3 divide 3 here would cancel out, so I'm left with 2x. Now if you just times, we can do times on top, so 6x. Please do not multiply the denominator. That 3 is a times, it does not go in the denominator as times 3 in the denominator. So we just have the original 3, and that 6 divided by 3 simplifies to 2x. So there's a few different ways you can do this, but basically times 3 divide 3 cancel out, and we're left with 2x. Plus, now we have to make sure we count for everything. 5 times 3 is 15, 7 times 3 is 21. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. So I get 21 minus 15 is 6. Again, notice I'm showing everything vertically. I can track all my terms vertically. Divide by 2. I end up with x is equal to 3. Again, we can just substitute in and check our answer. So we end up with 2 times 3 divided by 3 plus 5 equals 7. Well, times 3 divide 3 cancel out, so 2 plus 5 equals 7. Yep, that works, so this 3 must be the right answer. Here we have fractions again. If we want to get rid of the divide 3 and divide 2, well, we can times by 3 and times by 2. Now we have to be very careful, because sometimes some of these times cancels out and some of them don't. So here I'm going to do 2x times 3 divide 3 cancel out, but the times 2 doesn't cancel, so I'm going to make sure I have my times 2 there. Plus, okay, so notice, just make sure you see what happened here. 2x, that's my 2x. This divide 3 and times 3 cancel. That 2 didn't cancel, so it ended up there. Nothing cancels here because there's no divides, so I end up with 2 times 3 times 2. And I go to the other side of my equals. Make sure you're keeping track of your equals. I have a 7x times 3. This times 2 and divide 2 cancel out, so those end up disappearing. So we just end up with 7x times 3 minus, and make sure you keep track of all your term signs as well. Nothing cancels here, there's no divides here, so I'm going to times 3 times 2. So I've got a big mess here, so I just want to clean this up and make sure I see what I'm dealing with. 2 times 3 times 2 is 12. Here I'm going to end up with 21 x's minus 15 times 3 is 45 times 2 is 90. Okay, so make sure you group your like terms. We don't combine terms that are not like. I can see all my calculations being tracked vertically. This comes at, all my signs are all still there. I'm going to get rid of the plus 4 with a minus 4x, plus 4x with a minus 4x. Minus 4x on both sides. This one's a little bit harder, so I'm just going to do this in steps. So this is my 0 pair, so I end up with 12 equals 17x minus 90. I'm going to do my plus 90 plus 90. So I end up with 102 is equal to 17x. Okay, so if I divide by 17, and it looks like 17 is going to divide into 102 6 times. So I get 1x is equal to 6 as my final answer. Example 6, same thing. It's just really all the same stuff, except now we have to be more careful. So we have to make sure we're careful with our steps and with our signs, making sure that we're doing our work vertically. So I think often it's easier to get rid of the brackets first before we deal with the fraction, because we have to remember that there's a times here. And sometimes we over multiply when we multiply through the equation. So I'm first going to multiply this through. Now you have to be very careful. There's lots of things going on here. There's a negative, there's a fraction. So the negative has to be distributed. So I end up with 2x over 3. Now you can write the x on the side as times, but x is a multiplication, so it should end up in the numerator. Negative, negative, that's a plus. So 2 times 2, that 2 is a time, so it does not go in the denominator. So we end up with 2 times 2, and we'll just leave that as divide by 3. Do not multiply into the numerator and denominator. This is a times only. It only goes into the top. Plus 2 equals x minus 6. Okay, I suppose I could have added those two together, and then that would have combined like terms. Maybe I'll do that. Well, I'll do this in the next step. So I'm just going to combine my like terms so I can just maybe start organizing this a little bit better. And again, a problem like this, the steps are all the same as before, except the organization is more important because of all the negatives and fractions involved. I have a divide by 3 now, which I want to deal with. Now there's other things I could do, but I kind of want to just deal with that divide by 3, the fraction first. So 4 times 3, nothing cancels, so I'm going to end up with 12, minus, make sure you're keeping track of your sign, times 3, divide 3, cancel. Okay, we do not times into the numerator and times into the denominator. Times only goes into the numerator. But in this case, the times 3 and divide 3 cancel out, so we end up with minus 2x. Here the times 3 and divide 3 cancel out as well, so we just left with times 4. So we end up with x plus 4. Don't forget to multiply every term. Okay, you can't just multiply fractions, you have to multiply all the terms here. So this is 3 times x, which is 3x. Just make that a little bit nicer than that. Minus 6 times 3 is 18. Now I'm going to combine like terms, so 12 plus 4. Remember, this is the minus goes with the x, 2x, not the 12. So this is positive 12 plus 4 is 16. I'm going to put the x's on the right hand side to keep them positive. Just makes it a little bit easier when I do that. That means I'm going to put the 1's on the left hand side. So I'm going to get rid of that minus 18. I'm going to get rid of this minus 2x, the plus 2x. Okay, so just be careful here. Keep track of it. There's a 0 pair. 0 pair. 16 plus 18 is 34. Again, notice that I can show my calculations vertically. Make sure you keep your equals. 3x plus 2x is 5x. Divide by 5, divide by 5. My final answer is x is equal to 34 over 5. Now you can leave that as an improper fraction. This does work out to be 6.8.